Let's hope some more people join. In our next session, called From Tiananmen to Today, Freedom, Repression and Resistance in Chinese Digital Age, we will hear an interview with Fengsuo Zhou, who has real experience from the front lines of the struggle against authoritarianism. As one of the leaders of the Beijing Students' Autonomous Federation, Fengsuo played a pivotal role in the Tiananmen Square protests, and following the Chinese government's violent crackdown, Zhou was arrested and exiled to Hebei province by the communist government. In 1995, he relocated to the United States, where he has dedicated himself to human rights activism, supporting defenders of human rights in China and members of the Chinese diaspora. Joining as the interviewer is Martin Pánek, a Czech economist and the director of the Czech Institute for Liberal Studies. Please welcome Fengsuo and Martin.
Thank you. I see some people are confused. If you were hoping to hear from Mrs. Park, she has some medical emergency, and we don't know anything about Korea. So we will talk about China instead. I hope that's fine. If people even well, no, Korea is more popular. He said in the previous talk that in Beijing they want to be engineers of human souls everywhere. Could you expand on that?
Well, from very beginning, this is in the declaration of the Communist Party, and that's what we are taught from the beginning at elementary school and all that. So they never shied away from talking about their global ambition. They are not limiting themselves to only enslaved Chinese people. You see what's happening to Hong Kong, for example, one of the freest cities in the world. Now it's becoming even worse in many ways than mainland China, simply because we want to set up Hong Kong as an example to have a chilling effect on the rest of China. That's what's happening. So I think most people just don't understand this. Even in the United States, for example, maybe American empire, it's always the target for China to overthrow, and they talk about it in public. But the United States never really comprehended or never really was willing to confront it, I think, until Trump's first term, where really he said we have a competition. I mean, it's ultimate rivalry. So I think that's what's important now. But in the past, you can kind of dismiss this easily because China wasn't a global power, and today it is. So it's already in many ways shaping the world we are living in every way, and people probably don't realize how pervasive it is already. I mean, just the China model itself, most people don't understand. And they are, even in the United States, there are lots of people who are praising the China model as a substitute for liberal democracy. That's ridiculous, but it is happening. And that's what we are facing. It's something we must warn the world of.
Is that new? Because historically, it seemed to me that China did not have global ambitions, that China wanted to dominate its space, but not the whole world. Have I misread the historical aspect, or is it something new that's going on?
Well, I think most people don't understand. They always have global ambition. Yeah, from very early on, we are taught. For example, when we were in elementary school, this was in the early 80s, late 70s. We always should end like everything we wrote. Like, we must liberate Taiwan and liberate people of the whole world. And that's important because that's inherent in the doctrine of communism. Communism is a global religion. It's never limited to China, and that's where they see themselves. They see themselves as the true communism, and this happened in many ways already. For example, when I look at the tank attacks, thanks to Student for Liberty, I was able to give a speech in Georgia 2 years ago. That's where I learned about the tank attack in Georgia. And why that's related to China? Because when I studied the history of using tanks to kill protesters, the first one happened in Hungary in 1955. And guess what? This was because Deng Xiaoping, the butcher of Tiananmen, he was insisting on using tanks, and more so than the Soviet Union leadership, because this was after the death of Stalin. And Soviet Union was beginning to change something from Stalin. They were deviating from Stalin. And that's where CCP sees opportunity. They see themselves as the true heritage from Stalin. And that's why they insist on this bloody crackdown more strongly than the Soviet Union leadership. And that's the one reason of the tank attack. That's why, after all these years, I just realized the tank attack on Tiananmen Square, it was planned. It wasn't an accident. This is the way a communist government treats people, and they want to use that to repress, to defeat the political will of the resistance. And this thing happened in Czech, in Lithuania, in the Baltic nation in 91. So I think that's one aspect you can see it. They always have a global view, and they want their way of controlling people to be the global standard, and that's happening.
Do you think now with this very good, or seems to me very good system of surveillance, of digital surveillance and state-led censorship, do you think it's even conceivable that there would be a protest like in 1989 in China?
Well, it's always a surprise to people when it happens, so I can't really predict. But for now, I think they are studying it as hard as I am. They are trying to prevent it. They are trying to understand in every way how to do it. So far, I think this is where people are kind of pessimistic for a good reason, because they have successfully blocked every possible path to civil society in China. There is no opposition party, no free speech, no way of anyone to associate politically for any reason, even like people having dinner together. We have seen many examples of people arrested simply for having dinner together with people who have political background. And that's the way they believe they can prevent it. But At the same time, for example, what's the worst time of surveillance? This was during the pandemic. But how the pandemic policy ended, it was because of protest, because what we call this white paper protest. And it happened. All of a sudden, it erupted, just like in 1989. Even though there wasn't any organization before that who was responsible for organizing it, but it happened. There are reasons why it happened. That's what we are learning too. How resistance can still exist and grow, and sometimes with huge impact, it may be able to change the regime in the future. So I call it digital activism. In the end, it will be like a cloud revolution. It will not be like a traditional change. So that's how I see it now. Of course, it's very, very difficult, but there are aspects that modern technology enables people to do that it facilitates future change. Also, even though it empowers probably the government more so, but still people have more ways of connecting with each other. And sometimes the tight control backfire, just like the Berlin Wall didn't prevent the Soviet bloc from collapsing. I don't think this digital wall will cement CCP's rule forever. For example, there's one thing I was thinking, actually talk about this on Twitter, and gets lots of angry replies from CCP bots, but it's true. Why? Because one reason people are talking about the recent bombing of Iran, with the name Khamenei, the leader. Yeah, and so there's one story why he was followed because of the surveillance cameras in Tehran. And guess where has more surveillance cameras? In Beijing. And so that opens up Xi Jinping's whereabouts to, for example, hackers here. So I think that's the other aspect of the surveillance state. It opens up the whole system. For example, recently OpenAI said they can pretty much open up any system with this new technology. They are reluctant to disclose it. Just suppose they can use this against CCP's surveillance system, then all of a sudden you have all the information fully transparent, and there's no protection for Xi Jinping himself. So that's the other aspect. I think the modern technology is opening up. So it's a double-edged sword. So I think the other aspect is brighter than most people realize.
And you pre-answered the question before I even got to ask him. I'll ask something else. You testified before Congress and you criticized American companies' involvement in the Chinese surveillance system. Would you like to say something about that?
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, that has been a perennial problem. I think even today, it's a problem. But I think in the United States, a lot has changed for the better in terms of public awareness and public opinion. It's very strong. It's probably stronger than any other country of CCP now. And we all have negative opinions of Trump, but I think for me, I would give him credit for changing the policy on China. we must give this credit to Trump. He first, he completely changed the direction. Otherwise, today will be much worse situation. So now I think the United States has much less dependency on China, but still, with the temptation of making easy money in China, companies are easy target. For example, Elon Musk himself, he's probably like a hero for the terrorists, but he at CCP plays him very well because most people don't realize how deep his connection is with China. He never criticized CCP. If you look, he has a big mouth. He even criticized Trump, but he never criticized CCP on Twitter, ever. You think about all the things that happened. Why? Because at his critical juncture of his business, he was given land basically for free in Shanghai and all that. And more importantly, his mother, Mayor Musk, she is treated royally in China now. She's doing all kinds of business in China. It's just nothing, just only because of his connection with Elon Musk. And they know very well of how to do this. So Twitter used to have a China team that knows what CCP is doing, but we have a way of talking with Twitter, for example, to figure out how CCP's influence work, and that channel is gone now. So that's one way they are seeing. But on most companies now, I think they are aware of the danger, and they are trying to get away from it. But still, lots of influence from communist China still leaders.
I don't know other people in this room, but I hate Elon Musk. But he has data centers in Shanghai, or what does he use it for? I'm sure he also has too many starring customers in China. But what's his business in Shanghai?
Mostly for the car. It's Tesla cars producing the car.
Is he competitive in China compared to the Chinese electric vehicles?
I think, his cars were selling well, but the recent years, probably the Chinese government has reservations, and some government, like local government, restricted by Tesla cars. That still, from his action, we can see his connection. For example, we talking about China, we must talk about Taiwan. Both Trump's first term and Biden have been strong on Taiwan, both materially and in principle. But on Trump's first day of inauguration, I saw that Taiwan might at risk, and because Trump invited the vice president of China to his inner circle of celebration, and who was whining and dining with Elon Musk, and not Marco Rubio. That's definitely a sign there.
When you mentioned Taiwan, I think I must ask, how is the Chinese Politburo looking at the war in Ukraine, at the war in Iran, and what are they thinking? What can they do now? It seems like the world of the 1990s or whatever is gone, so the situation is different from my view. What are they thinking?
Of course, they are the main supporter of both Russia and Iran, but they are also very smart in trying to not get involved in the war directly. So in both cases, they are trying to profit from the situation, supplying Russia with drone technology, materials, and they are buying oil from Iran. And recently, there's I think it's a cargo ship that was blocked. The most recent cargo ship that's from Shanghai to Iran that was blocked by U.S. Navy. So we are seeing this connection definitely, and of course the aside from depending Iran for oil import strategically, they also see it as a testing ground for their weapons. And that's actually one reason a lot of people speculated that why recently many of the generals who were associated with weapon development were purged because they realized that their weapon didn't behave as promised when facing the United States. That's where we see in Ukraine too. They are testing their technology, of course, with the end goal of targeting Taiwan everywhere.
Back to artificial intelligence. I think here in this room, people are more open to it perhaps than people in typical human rights organizations. Do you think, or are human rights organizations using artificial intelligence in the large language models? Should they do it? What do you think?
Well, I think I live in Mountain View. This is the city in Silicon Valley. It's the very heart of Silicon Valley. It's where Google, it's where Apple was founded, and it's next to Stanford, where most of the technology entrepreneurs graduate from or drop out from. So I am really excited about what is happening. I think just intuitively, like all the technological innovations in the past, we should celebrate this, and we should learn and try to utilize it in whatever way. Of course, the concern I have been had for a long time was that China was actually quite advanced. So most people probably today forgot, like a few years ago, before the advance of the current large language models, China was leading in AI at that time. Why? Because AI was mostly facial recognition, and that's what China does most and does best. Actually, the first case of facial recognition used in messaging being blocked. This was Liu Xiaobo in 2017. Liu Xiaobo died. Even his image can't be sent. This was first instance of any technology that can identify image. But now I think I'm less concerned because the United States is definitely taking the lead, and that's definitely comfort. And I know a lot of people in Europe have reservations about this, but definitely it's one order better, many orders better than China having the lead. And there are debates about this. I think I myself, I'm a libertarian. I believe human innovation, human capital, human flourishing, this individual creativity, and that's what communism they cannot allow. So I think I believe in the long run, this is where we still have the advantage. Even in the United States, given all the problems, this creative destruction process is still working. And now this is the latest manifestation. It's in AI, and so I think it's a tool to empower people, and we have to think about the ways how we can utilize it. On one hand, it definitely enabled top-down control in a never foreseen way. But on the other hand, it also enabled individuals with creativity, with ingenuity, to do a lot of things that wasn't possible for any individual. You can do lots of great things with AI now. That's just unimaginable, just because the tools are so powerful. And we are trying to at least understand, for example, how CCP is using this to create disinformation, for surveillance. But on the other hand, we are trying to use it to our own advantage too. For example, I think it's very good at creating images, videos, and one of the most viewed image that we created, a video we called Imagining Democracy in China. And that was viewed like 1 million times on Twitter. Twitter is forbidden in China, but it's viewed by 1 million times. So that's kind of creativity that AI can enable us to have. I believe there's just a lot more we don't really know yet.
So a better world is possible. I think we might give the floor to the audience. Do we have another mic?
Yes, we have.
Great.
Hello, first of all, thank you. My name is Pepas, I'm a Turkish Syrian student. My question is about the CCP membership. So in China, about 7% of the whole population, which is like 100 million people, are members of the Communist Party. So is this membership skewed in a ethnic way where like the eastern parts get more representation than the Uyghurs or the Tibetans? And also, is it even meaningful? Does it make any difference between the political power level between individuals, ordinary citizens?
Thank you. That's a very good question because this is core to how CCP controls China. And these members, I believe they are just members of the Nazis under Hitler. They are all kind of members of an evil machine. And in my time, some people who say, okay, I joined CCP with the purpose of changing it eventually. But now it's mostly because I can be part of some system and exploit other people. That's basically very clear after 1989. So this is the still a very well-oiled machine. I don't know its ethnic distribution. It's a very good question we can ask, but I think they have recruited very heavily in what they call these minority groups as well. This is what CCP does very efficiently. They always want to create their own version. Even within, for example, Christian churches, they may have people who are secretly CCP members, but acting like pastors. So that's the how they control the whole society through this party member system. And of course, that's a way you can rise up in prestige and with reward, material reward, and see.
Well, I am tempted to add, when I was studying in China in university for the first semester, two of my classmates were preparing for the exam to become party members, and I looked at them as if they were crazy. I said that the party committed multiple atrocities. How can you even think about joining? And it didn't even register with them. They said, well, we want to have good jobs, and this is how you do it in China. You become a party member, and the moral aspect of it, they didn't even realize, at least at 20 years of age, or how old they were.
Right. One question related to that. This is for understanding CCP's trajectory after 1989. We know, United States chose to embrace CCP after Tiananmen Massacre. This was the biggest mistake of the Western democracies to do this. But the trajectory was set from 1989 because all of the so-called reformers were purged from the system. And every potential leader has to go through this process. Like when you are facing this situation, are you willing to use tax to kill? And they have to vote yes. There's no other way. So that's why, for example, there's like some people, when Xi Jinping was in his early years, some people would say, oh, Xi Jinping will change Tiananmen and all that. That's not possible at all, because as this machine, they are always thirst on power and control, and they know this. Nobody will pass this kind of test while rising up.
I've seen many hands, so I suggest we take at least 3 questions in a row.
Okay. So, my name is Augusto. I'm from Portugal, but I'm originally from China. Can you elaborate on how the cloud revolution works when you were mentioning?
Thank you. Hang on. 2 more questions.
So how is it to leave China as a Chinese person? And how is it to leave China, like the government? Yeah. And also how is the most the way to be successful in China as a Chinese person? Like how to be successful as a normal citizen? What is your best option to join the CCP or something else?
You mentioned about Trump's interventions, and do you think there is a book called Tyranny Comes Home, where all the increased military activities by the US brings back those kind of weapons back to the domestic police in the US? Do you think this kind of foreign interventions by the US government in the long run would violate the democracy itself, itself? So,
will the American interventions abroad
brings back militarization of the domestic police?
Okay. So, cloud revolution.
Okay, that's a very good question. Actually, cloud revolution in China already happened twice. White paper is version number 2. Number 1 actually happened 15 years ago. This was the second wave of what we call Arab Springs, and at that time, Twitter was not completely banned in China, and also there was a very wide spectrum of people from China on Twitter. So basically, people were discussing this, what's happening in Africa, from Tunisia to Egypt, other countries. and they will think, wow, God, look at this, a vendor, of some small things were punished unfairly, and he died in protest, and that ignited a protest. And that happened in China regularly, and nothing happened. So while discussing here, and people slowly, this idea of having some kind of protest in China begin to form. But then one day, all of a sudden, there is an account that's what we call a tree hole account. Basically, it's like a hole in a tree, in a forest, where you can just put your letters there, just like your letter to Santa. Yeah. You believe someone will receive it, but keep secret. And that's where you can share information. So what they did is to basically repost whatever people sent them. And this account was widely followed. And one day it came out with an announcement that we are going to have protests in these cities at this location, and these are the slogans. And that's it. The next weekend, at the designated time, there were widespread protests in China. And but it happened in different forms. For example, even in Beijing, large groups of people gathered around the Wangfujing, that area. But the other side is that there were more police in the crowd. But still, for ordinary people who are not on Twitter, they were all astonished. So that's how it happened. But there were large-scale protests in Harbin, for example, thousands of people gathered.
We only have three more minutes, so the next question.
One more question.
How to best live in China?
Yeah. So that's a very good question, because one most prevalent weapon they use against people is to forbid people from leaving, called exit ban. I believe millions more are on exit ban. They can do this for whatever reason, and it's very hard to be removed from this list. And many of my friends are banned forever from leaving China. And even I helped many political prisoners. Sometimes we bring, for example, wife and children to United States, while the husband is in prison. Guess what? They will just forever ban the husband from leaving China. This kind of cruelty. And that happens very regularly to lots of people, even people with foreign passport or permanent residence. And people, the best way of rising up in China now, if summarized by Chinese people, is to be born to parents who are higher up in the system.
It's difficult to influence. Do you fear militarization of US politics now that it's so jingoistic, as they would say?
We are definitely concerned, for example, about ACE situation in United States. I think what happened in Minnesota was very bad, and I condemned it, and I believe that shouldn't happen. Even though I think Trump had strong public support for his immigration policy, that is, we have to stop the open border policy. That kind of inhuman brutal treatment of people with or without citizenship, it shouldn't happen in the United States. So I think that there is a notable public backlash against it. I think this is probably one big reason they are going to lose in the midterm. But externally, I'm not as concerned, and I think, of course, the United States should stay away from war as much as possible. But that's it's the duty of the United States to keep order.
Jonash is signaling that we should stop, but there's a half-an-hour break. Can we go on if people want or not?
I think you can continue if people want, but just so that people know, there will be now the half an hour long break, and then the session will continue.
Yeah, so half an hour long break. We will hold it against you if you leave, but if people want to continue the discussion, we can continue.
Sure. Yeah. The other question was, what is the best way to be successful in China?
You have to be born to good
No,
parents.
I think there are other ways. For example, people. This is where I think they have. So there are ways you can be successful in business, and you can be an inventor. I think Chinese people are very innovative, and in a way, this is what has happened at the same time. So that's where the Chinese system is unique. It's a very strange combination of lots of good things and bad things. So after 1989, one demand of the protesters realized this was more economic freedom. The political freedom is completely backward going, but economically there's definitely more ways. Even though, of course, you don't really have property rights, but still there is like market for competition and innovation, and in some areas it still works very well. So I think that's the other part. But people have to work extremely hard.
I would give applause before all people.
Okay, applause, and then we can continue the debate. Okay, I'll gather again 3 questions. Gentlemen in the first row, and Mrs. Elizabeth.
Well, my question is, do you see any meaningful prospects for political change in China in the coming years? I ask that because when we see the former communist countries, their regime ended after economic collapse. But until now, China hasn't shown clear signs of economic collapse. They still have the second biggest GDP in the world. So in that scenario, you can see any possibility or any prospects for political change in China, or no hope?
Wait for the other questions, please.
Thank you. Just wondering about China's ultimate goal. I know that they have very predatory lending in many countries where they make these terms that countries don't understand, and then they end up giving away their infrastructure when they finally read the small print. And China is also doing a lot of military exercises. They have a full battle formation, circumvent Australia and New Zealand, testing weapons. I mean, clearly they're building something. They have kind of a war machine, at least in military and materiel. You could please speak about what is their ultimate goal.
Thank you, gentleman in the first row.
Hi, I'm Antonio from here in Spain, and I would like to ask about the thing that we were talking at the start of the talk, because here in Spain we usually see as a good sign the way the French people tend to revolt against the government, and like the agriculture people, and sometimes the people tends to tends to pressure the government to don't do certain things that maybe they are needed to be done. For example, in France right now is probably economically a threat to the stability of the European Union, and the French people is not letting the government do the reforms that might be done. And what's your thoughts about that? Because in China, you were saying that people need to talk and not, I don't know if revolt against what the government might say, but in France the people is wrong, you know.
Right. So some protests might be counterproductive or ineffective. Or okay. So the first question was, what's the prospect for political change in China?
Okay. I'm always optimistic. I think I used to be a lot more pessimistic, but I'm more optimistic now. I think a lot of it has to do with this what do we call cyber community, because if there are every day there are millions of people who listen to us, and we can talk about everything, anything. For example, we every day would, since it's getting closer to Tiananmen anniversary, we broadcast something about Tiananmen, and that's regularly like the most viewed topic of the day, because people care. And this number has increased a lot, especially since the pandemic. Now I think it's definitely tens of millions. I estimate it's about 50 million or more. So just to give a context about this, who mentioned that the number of CCP members is about 7%. So that's about 100 million. So if you have 50 million, it's almost there. These are the people who are potentially against CCP in principle, and we don't need all these people to be on the street to have a revolution. So I think in modern days, it can happen much faster than realize. For example, what happened in Nepal, in other countries recently, this kind of internet, cloud-led changes. I think that's there's huge potential in China, right? And we are seeing also not only on the external, like Twitter, this kind of platforms, even within China, we are seeing this kind of, we call it power rush. People this is a game where you basically challenge the authority. 大冲塔, but they are doing it regularly in China now. It's very risky. So basically, what it means, like people will just pile on any topic. And for example, today, this just happened today. There is an old lady who is 64 years old. So he's singing his birthday song. She's singing birthday song about 64 years old. Guess what? 64 means dreamful. And Tiananmen, and you see thousands of people just pile on, celebrating. But the message is all about Tiananmen. And that's happening regularly in all Chinese platforms now, because people just can't put up with it anymore. And this you cannot see from anywhere else. So I think that's happening. But of course, the challenge is how can we govern meaningfully after this, if change happens? Because traditionally there would be like the opposition party, civil society organizations. But that's not possible now. With online organizations, it's a different challenge.
We have to move to the other questions. We got the last 5 minutes. So predatory lending in other countries' infrastructure,
right, of course,
and Chinese war machine. What's the ultimate goal?
Thank you. The goal is very clear. I think for me, it's always the same. They want to expand their control at any cost, in any way possible. But I think the good thing is they have done it well. Even though they are expanding, they always portray themselves as peacemaker, all that. So people are not so alert. I think the best example of all this, the landing that become the stronghold for the military force. Another example, I think that's the building up in South China Sea, where they basically poured cement into the ocean and make up an island. And that's like they didn't do anything with it. Basically, that's the way they do lots of things, and they have been successful. In a way, I think that's when I look at Nazi Germany, for example, Hitler. Before the military confrontation, he successfully expanded German territory. That's why he was the hero. And same is happening with Xi Jinping. It's doing it without military confrontation, but the goal is always the same. What's the last?
The last question was: protests in France are counterproductive.
Right.
If we, from the perspective of French growth, is dictatorship good because it limits because it limits protests?
Right. I think. I think there's a deeper question there. How people can choose the best policy for that. So protest is one way that can be productive, but it can also be paralyzing. If you are saying, but still, that's better than where everything is strictly controlled. So, for example, in China, like during the pandemic, in Shanghai, people were starved to death because there's no way you can protest. Even you are facing that kind of starvation, and it can happen anytime, because as long as they decide it suits their goal, any cost, and that's not good.
Thank you. I think it's high time to end this. Thank you very much. The next panel in this room will be with Kathy, so